Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Red for Anfield Index. Ladies and gents, it's Saturday, the 24th of August. There's 6 days till the transfer window closes, but more importantly, there's about 24 hours before the Reds play their first home game of the season against Brentford at Anfield. There's plenty to talk about. Current players, current managers, ex-managers even speaking as well. And I'm delighted to welcome someone to cover it all with me. I'm sure you know him well from a renowned Liverpool follower from various social media, be it if you follow his YouTube or his Twitter, Grizz Khan. How are we this morning, sir?
We're doing all right, my friend. Thank you very much for inviting me on. It's an absolute dismal day in what's formerly known as sunny Luton, but it's far from sunny. It's absolutely, I don't know if you can hear it through my conservatory. I don't know. Hopefully,
Just like tapping on the glass type of job.
Absolutely, and that's where I'm wearing this bucket hat, just in case the conservatory lets me down like Old Trafford and there's leaks suddenly in my conservatory. There won't be, but you never know. If it can leak in Old Trafford, it can definitely leak in my conservatory in Luton. But yeah,
No doubt.
plenty to talk about and can't wait to tuck in.
Yeah, plenty to talk about, ladies and gents, as we say. We'll do what we normally do on Daily Red. We will cover the headlines. We will talk about everything that's gone on in recent times. We'll have a little bit of a flip back to Ipswich. And then, like Marty McFly in Back to the Future, we will jump to Brentford ahead of the big game. And probably no surprise from anyone, we will get transfer talk in there for you at the same time. So, Grizz, let's launch right into the sort of stories that are coming out in the last 24 hours and steering into this morning. Now, this one, technically, people are going to start screaming at me when I say this, but the Reds did make a signing. They did confirm one late yesterday, and I'm not going to pretend I know too much about this kid. And if I've got his name right, Alvin Ayman, so a couple of £1 million from Wolves Academy. It looks like we've taken him from. Very much seen as a young talent based on the reports that it is a bit of a coup for Liverpool and also goes on alongside other youth signings we made recently. I see mixed, and I feel a bit sorry for the kid when I see this one, Grizz, because I see it announced, and I'm going to be honest where I stand. I see these things as positives, but you know how this lands on social media. That's not a first-team player. That's still going to be able to make a difference right now. When you see those stories and the comments as well, what are you thinking?
Yeah, it's frustrating, isn't it? It's frustrating. It's annoying. I guess I'm with you. I do feel for the youngsters that get announced in sort of the window when it's sort of already a bit, let's say, sensitive. Sensitive term in the window, let's say, but as with regards to Liverpool fans. But I think this goes on to the sort of maybe the PR team of Liverpool. Maybe they should know sort of timings. I mean, normally we're very good with PR, but in recent times it seems to be letting us down slightly. And I think this is one of those moments where they could have timed it better. Maybe just left it under the table and sort of announced it afterwards. Because as you say, look, he's a fantastic youngster by all accounts. Unlike you, I'm not going to pretend to know much about him. But from our recent record in terms of signing youngsters, we're all hits and hardly any misses. And obviously we may touch upon sort of releasing a few youngsters, or I say youngsters, but sort of the youngsters that have kind of been exposed to more experience. And so now we're looking to bring in the next set of crop of youngsters. And this goes in line with a few others that we brought in. And I just think the timing from the PR team could have been a bit more, I don't know what the word for it is, but, could have just assessed the situation or read the room, as they say.
Yeah, timing's everything, I suppose, isn't it, in that regard? But I agree with you. It's still right, people, to be excited about these types of things. Like Alvin Ayman, and I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong. I think it's Rion Goma that we got from Chelsea as well. Exactly like you said, Grizz. These are talented youngsters we're taking, like with Trey and Yoni, with Narlo as well. It's good to see us doing these things. Yes, I know it's not first teamers that people want, but with Brexit and the current situation, if you can land top British talent, that is not a bad thing at all. So I know it's not what people want, but let's be positive about it overall. And the other one, Grizz, this one came late yesterday. I want to ask you about this because the documentary, we know it got filmed at the end of last season, then it's gone very quiet. And then all of a sudden it pops up yesterday that Liverpool are into talks with Amazon and other providers about releasing this documentary. Honest question to start with, would you watch it?
I don't think I'll be able to resist it. And I'm being honest. I wasn't a fan of it initially. I thought, oh gosh, we've seen the Man City versions, the Arsenal versions. What other versions have there been? Has there been any other versions of sort of
Sunderland Till I Die was notorious, wasn't it? Yeah.
There you go. That was one of the first ones, wasn't it? But so we know how they can become sort of banter talking points for opposition fans and something to rub in our face when things don't go so well. And obviously we know how the way Jurgen Klopp's final season ended, and that made it a bit of uh-oh. But look, at the end of the day, they agreed. The club agreed. We still don't know for officially, like, if Jurgen Klopp was overly enamored with it. We know beforehand he was not, but then suspiciously he decided to be okay with it when he already announced he was leaving. So look, there's a bit of a grey cloud in terms of situation, and I'm probably going to watch clips of it, I think. I don't know if I'm going to sit down and watch all of it. I probably will. During an international break, somewhere along the line, I'll be so bored of no football. Oh, well, no Premier League football. I think I will. I don't know about you, Dave.
Love to. I'd be lying like you if I said I'm not going to be interested in it at all, because you'll see clips and people will put snippets out. I'd like to think I will watch it up to the Carabao Cup final and jib it from there type of thing. That would be my favourite thing. However, that is like you. It's easier said than done. And then there will be that morbid curiosity where it starts to go wrong. You think, I do want to see kind of what happened, and you'll overanalyze. So I would love to pretend no. But yeah, the smart money says, like you, I'll be watching it all. And listen, they'll get the money out of it. And fans will be the same way, Grizz. They will watch it.
I think he'll be the biggest I think he'll be the biggest earner for them. I think this will be, without a shadow of a doubt, the biggest earner. And that's what Liverpool does, doesn't it? Liverpool drives clicks and Liverpool drive, and this is it. And they know what they were doing and they know what they were getting.
Yeah, they know what they're doing. Timing's everything again. So we'll see what happens with that. And today, ladies and gents, it is a day of, it's kind of quotes and interviews. So I won't spoil Virgil van Dijk's programme notes, because I got shouted at last time I revealed programme notes ahead of the game, because people naturally like to get to the game and read them. That's absolutely fine. But a couple of things came out on LFC TV, Grizz. Now, Ryan Gravenberch gave an interview that, not too much in there, but let's just read the quotes for everyone who's not seen it. So he's asked about his role. He said, I had a little chat with him, the manager on a slot, naturally. And he said, I have to focus on the number 6 and number 8 positions. Now I play at number 6. In the past, I played it as well. So I know what I have to do. I've enjoyed playing there. It's a little bit of a different system than we played last season, but I think everyone has adapted to it. Now we have to build it further and further. I think at the end, we can be a really dominant team. Now, this one, Grizz. I mean, Ryan Gravenberch started the season at number 6. I think many people expect him to probably resume that role against Brentford on Sunday. What do you make of those comments? Because he talks about a 6 and an 8, which kind of indicates to me, like, okay, well, probably wasn't the first choice, and circumstances have led him to be the number 6. Was that what you were taking from that snippet of the interview?
Yeah, you can take that from the interview. You could take a few things from that interview. I mean, first and foremost, sort of the fact that Slot has spoken to him, and I'm sure he's spoken to majority of the players individually, but sort of given them specific instructions and roles and what he expects from them. And look, we know Slot being one of the more progressive coaches in European football and Dutch, and we know the Dutch, how they almost their philosophy is based on total football.
Yeah.
And so what that means is each individual is expected almost to be able to play in a variety of roles, and that's especially in midfield. We know current midfielders don't have a designated role as such. I don't think you can label McAllister as a 6 or a definite 8 or a possible 10. We know he can play all those roles. And same with the rest of them. Sobozemai, Curtis Jones, for example, how multifunctional has he become over the years?
Yeah.
And Ryan's the same. And what was interesting, Dave, was the way he pointed out that he has played this role before. Now, some Liverpool fans may not remember or recall, but in his Ajax days, he used to play in exactly this role alongside Edson Alvarez, who's now out there, who was
double
the
pivot,
role, double pivot. So he has got experience of playing this role. And it's interesting. I'm intrigued to see how he develops. I was at the opening game against Ipswich, and I thought he'd done fantastically well. He was by far the shining light, unless you take away Trent Alexander-Arnold, who we know is a genius anyway in his own right. But Ryan, all eyes were on Ryan Gravenberch, and I thought he's shown, especially in that second half, but obviously more harder and stiffer tests to become. So I thought it was interesting interview or statements he made, and the fact that he's willing to sort of learn and develop, and he knows what's expected. I think it bodes well.
Yeah, I think we've got to give him his flowers because he did do well against Ipswich. And with any player that, similar to Alexis McAllister last season, he stepped into that role, probably not expecting to necessarily start the season at number 6 for obvious reasons. We know what's happened with Zubimendi, etc. We don't need to rehash that. An interesting question for you, Grizz, in terms of number 6. If you were to say, with the current squad we have, give me your number 6s in ranking order, i.e., who does Slot turn to one after the other as it stands currently? Because I know fans want a number 6 and they're desperate for number 6, as we all are. We all understand that. But if it stays as it is, who do you think Slot's order of preference would be?
Okay, so there's 2 questions you've asked there now in one. You've asked my current my preferences, and then you said, who do you think Slot's preferences?
Yeah.
So this is where it gets a bit tricky, you see, because if we're basing it on sort of like you said currently, now we know the reliable Liverpool-connected journalists have indicated that Tyler Morton, Stefan Bajcetic, notably, and even probably Wataru Endo are all... Okay, Bajcetic and Morton are definitely looking to be moved on in terms of sale. And then Wataru Endo is a bit sort of a grey area, isn't there? So, look, Dave, that's like such a hard question. You are I've worked out in the opening 10 minutes. You are a hard taskmaster. What a question. I'd say my preference right now is the guy that has the shirt.
Yeah.
Continue. If Slot has seen enough in training, and he obviously knows him from the Holland days, because you got to remember, Ryan was a wonder kid back in Holland, and Arne Slot would have known him. All the coaches, all the great managers would have known about this guy. And if they've seen attributes that they think... See, the thing is, the key point in all of these situations is that the coach will know the attributes that he requires for his number 6, as opposed to what he knew, Dave, envisage in our number 6s. And that's what we have to sometimes appreciate and accept. And by all accounts, I think, I haven't spoken to you about this, but I think me and you, we wanted, and I'm guessing, me and you wanted a number 6 that's defense-minded, ball winner, duel winner, covers spaces and ground, and lets the attacking players do what they need to do. I.e., a better version of Wataru Endo, a more younger version of Wataru Endo, a more physical version of Wataru Endo. But it so happens, and it so transpires from what we're reading and from what we've seen so far.
Yeah.
Slot's version of a number 6 is completely different. So if we base it on Slot's version of a number 6, then I'd say it's Ryan Gravenberch as number 1.
Yeah.
I'd even say McAllister. And I know a lot of Liverpool fans are split about this, but it seems to be number 2. And then possibly, and I know this is going to infuriate Liverpool fans as I go onto this list, possibly Curtis Jones.
Yeah.
Or even Dominic Szoboszlai, you know. But I think it's fair to say he hasn't been enamored with Wataru Endo. And that was key. And I think we're going to obviously go on to sort of transfers and windows, but this is what disappoints me, because I think he very early on, he's identified that Wataru Endo isn't what he requires in a number 6. And this is what's concerning.
Yeah. To be fair, I'll state my neck on the line. I do have similar feelings. I do think when he goes to his order of priorities and availability, I do suspect at times this season, we could be wrong, it's all guessing, but I would suspect that McAllister, Jones or Szoboszlai will be used in that 6 before he automatically turns to Wataru Endo. And we're talking now, people, naturally in the big games rather than a Carabao or something like that possible. But we will get on to transfer talk later on. I mean, Arne Slot has talked a bit. Grizz, he talked yesterday at his press conference. We'll come to that second. We'll do this in reverse order, because he talked at the embargo yesterday, didn't he? It all came out late last night. It's good to see we're getting the half-10 embargoes back, as it were. And it's difficult for Arne Slot at the moment, because all the comments or all the questions are naturally in early doors going to relate to Jurgen Klopp style comparisons. That's the backdrop, the context he has to work in. So just in case you've not seen any of the questions and his responses, people, we'll give you a bit now. So he was asked how you'll build a bond with the fans. My way of doing things is to let the team play in the best possible way. And if they enjoy the team playing in that way, they will hopefully admire me, or I will get a bond with them. But don't expect me to go after the game and make fist pumps. This is not going to be my style. So it's more let the team play in a certain way. And if the fans like the team because of that, they will like the manager as well. And also, I'll give you another snippet, people, because he was asked about running down the touchline. So he said, I might, but that would be to help the team, not to create something with the fans. And I don't think it's necessary, because the fans are always behind the team. I don't think they need to see me do something different or special to sing or help the team. Now, you can see those comments in various nationals, various places, ladies and gents, if you want to read the full Arne Slot detail in the embargo. Grizz, for me, quite striking comments, to be fair, and natural that it's going to come up early days, this Klopp comparison. What did you make of the comments, the interview?
So it's, look, every statement that he makes when he's asked about the comparison and sort of the actions of Klopp as compared to him, there will be bigger things made out of it than there really is. As I said, I was slightly surprised. So I'm going to give you my initial reaction when, at the end of the game, it was a tremendous opening day victory. We saw the players come over to us in the away section. Yeah. We appreciated them. They appreciated us. And we're just so used to for the last best part of a decade of routine coming up with routine, isn't it? So anything that takes you out of your routine, you're sort of a little bit, oh. And we saw Arne Slot walk down the touchline. Business has been done, and now he's off to speak to the press. He didn't acknowledge us. And I did turn around to the fellow Reds and I said, I thought he might have first away game, maybe just given us a wave or whatever. But I got over it very quickly, Dave. I'm not going to lie. I got over it very quickly. I said, come on, let's grow up a little bit. He has to do whatever he is comfortable with.
100%.
And if he's not comfortable with going over to the fans, and if he thinks he hasn't gotten a connection or a rapport yet with the fans, then that's fine. As I said, at the time, I was a little bit, and if you were making a few disparaging comments, as fans do, there's different opinions and different takes.
Yeah.
Right? And so some were saying, come on, Arnie, and they were singing his name to try to entice him to come over. Arnie Slot, all of that business.
Yeah.
Looking back, I wish he just gave us a little bit of a wave. But again, I got over it very quickly. Grow up, Grizz Khan. Who cares if he didn't give you a wave? Do you know what I mean? It's like, let him work his way in. Let him feel comfortable in the role. Let him build his own rapport. And like he says, if the fans are happy with the football that is being played and the results go in a positive light, then who cares? Fist pumps, that's a one-off. That guy he's replacing is a bloody one-off. He's a genius in his own right. But that was his style, that was his passion, that was his characteristics. This guy, and how many people have compared it to the Shankly to Paisley? Totally day and night in terms of characters and personalities. And hey, listen, are we really going to complain if he has the success that Paisley had up Shankly? So let's just sit back and enjoy him for what he is. And to me, he looks like a very, very serious and shrewd operator, Dave.
Yeah, business-minded was what I was thinking when I saw him. That's how he works. And I agree. You don't want him to try and be a Klopp replica if that's not what he is. He's got to be his own man. He's got to do it his way. He's almost coming across, isn't he, in the interviews? He's blunt, direct, but some people would take that, well, he's honest with us. He's a clear communicator. You apply it how you want. It's like you said, he's different from what he used to. Because he doesn't come across and do that applause, people make a story of it. And it does get hyper-analysed in the current climate. That is the fact.
My fear, and there's always pros and cons. There always is in everything that he's going to do, right? It's going to be scrutinized. My fear will be the moment results don't go his way, and then he will be demonized as this person that doesn't care, doesn't respond to fans, whatever. And it will be, Dave, as much as we hope it doesn't, that's going to be the part that I don't look forward to, because, we don't want to be in that situation. Hopefully it doesn't come about, but there's pros and cons. But look, let him be Arne Slot.
Yeah, we don't need to adore him as a person. We need to adore his team and adore his results. That's what it's about, people. And speaking of someone who we do adore, Grizz, he talked to ESPN Holland, didn't he? So he was back. So just in case people, you've not seen that came out this morning. Well worth the read, that interview. If you can see the video snippets as well, it's Jurgen Klopp. He's always box office. But I'll just give you a flavour, people, of what was said. So he was naturally asked about the coach. He said, Arne, yeah, really good coach. I was really happy when I heard that Liverpool was going for Arne Slot. I wasn't involved in anything. It should not be like that. And I'm not this kind of guy in the background still having some strings and stuff. Like, I don't want that. The club is too big, too good. The people are too good. A lot of things have changed since we left, but the only concern for me was, will they get a good coach? Liverpool was early and Liverpool got a top Arne Slot. Interesting comments there, Grizz. And there's a little bit more, people. I won't give you it all, but he talks about how Klopp was impressed with Sevilla, different things. I don't want to give too many spoiler alerts, but my suggestion, you see the clips, well worth the read as well. I mean, we adore when he talks anyway, Jurgen Klopp, Grizz. What were your thoughts when you've seen it, when you read it? What were you thinking?
Yeah, look, I haven't seen it. I'm not going to lie. In fact, the first I saw of it was when you sent me sort of the agenda. And look, every time he speaks about us, you can tell he still speaks with a glowing affection. It's just warmth. Everything he says about the club, the fans, and even the coach. And it just shows you it's indicative of the guy and the man and the human that he is, speaking so glowingly, positively about the coach. And I genuinely believe he believes that. So, sometimes coaches and players say things just for the takes and for the hits.
Sorry.
He absolutely believes, I genuinely think he believes that Arne Slot is a top coach. And he's spoken about him before, and he's continued to speak about him. It just fills you with a bit of warmth, doesn't it, when you hear him still speaking about us. And obviously, we don't want to give too much away. As you said, people want to go and read up and watch the interview. But he speaks about sort of, how he misses the people, how he misses the fans and the players. But interestingly, he says, I don't miss the day-to-day stress of the job.
Yeah.
He which kind of solidifies the reasons why he left. He was tired. He did need a break. But and his main and it shows you the character of the man, where he says, my main concern was hopefully they appoint the right man, because I want best for the club. I want best for the players. I want best for the fans. And he believes Arne Slot is that guy, which is so encouraging. And I tell you what, how must Arne Slot feel reading that and feeling he's got such a backing from such a legendary and iconic manager? So yeah, when Klopp speaks, we still listen, don't we? And we feel a warmth. We feel a warmth.
Yeah, absolutely. We won't give you all because there's so much we can talk about, ladies and gents. But just to repeat, ESPN Netherlands, I'm sure you'll probably see some clips on Twitter and different bits, but well worth a watch, well worth a read as well. And I suppose we should really move on to the main man currently, Grizz. He did his press conference. Seems to like him early, doesn't he? Friday morning, 9 o'clock. Seems to almost, again, maybe it's business minded. Does he want to just get them done and out the way, possibly? But they always seem early starts. And there's so much we can talk about. But before we get into the specifics and the answers he gave, Grizz, what was your kind of takeaway of that press conference, the way he conducted himself overall?
I enjoyed it. Dave, I really enjoyed it. Look, Dutch coaches have a reputation for being very blunt and straightforward.
Yeah.
And this guy is no different. I think we're going to have entertaining press conferences, but in a different way from Jurgen Klopp. Jurgen Klopp was different, where he kind of opened up and had a bit of a chat and a laugh with a swig of a cup of tea or whatever sort of drink he had. Usually it was water, actually. We remember every little detail about Jurgen Klopp. It's fascinating. But I think Slot's going to be a bit different. I had the absolute pleasure and honor of being at his press conference out in the USA. And he's got this aura, Dave. As soon as you in through the thing, he has, honestly, I know we like saying this and we use this word a lot, but he has. Initially, I thought his early press conferences and interviews were a slightly nervous side to him, but that's absolutely understandable. This is the biggest job of his life. He's taking over the biggest club in world football, one of the top 3 biggest clubs in world football. And so it's absolutely expected and understandable. But I think this was the first, or one of the few conferences that I think it's going to lead to such, I think it showed a sign of confidence now. Not arrogance, but confidence and positivity. And I think he's going to deal with the media spot on. I think he's got a reputation for being very, very good with media from his time at Feyenoord. Every report, everyone you spoke to in the Dutch media spoke very highly of him, how he has this rapport and connection. And I think very quickly he's gonna do the same. I loved the way he spoke. Very forthright, very straightforward, addressed any misdemeanors that the media may have said about him in terms of the Kwanzaa. What he said. He made it very clear. Maybe my English isn't great, and he made that very clear as well. And we're going to get sort of quotes where he means something else because of the language barrier, and we know what the media is like in this country. So he's already made that clear, like, guys, my English isn't great, so maybe I will have to be careful in the future what I say to you guys, because that's not what I meant. And I found that very clever and very, very incisive of him.
Yeah, I think that's a good way, clever and incisive. I think the messages coming out from the journalists that we speak to as well, very engaging, eye contact for all questions, very precise we're seeing as well, Grizz. If there's a bit of wording that the journos don't quite get right, he will pick them up on it quickly, like, did you mean this? Did you mean that? Are you not suggesting this? He very much a hyper focus to him. And like you mentioned with Kwanzaa yesterday, that was one of the big takeaways for people, wasn't it? That question around what's going on. It's like, no, it wasn't just Jarrell that lost his jewels. Let me make it clear, we were all losing our jewels. It was more that Konate came on to help the team, and everyone stepped up, really jumped on that point hard. One of the ones I wanted to ask you about from the press conference, because you talked about, how a lot of them trained really well on a Sunday after, being absent from the game. And this was quite striking, I think, for a lot of people. Again, it's always going to be the comparisons early door, I get that. But Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones, Darwin Núñez, those types of players, first team squad players, did not see a single minute, but he talked about how naturally they were in training on Sunday and did really well, showed him something. Jarrell Kwanzaa asked to train, interestingly, as well on Sunday. What did you make about those comments about, was it trying to keep those players positive on side, or did you take it as something else?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. There's no point trying to sort of second guess or read into things that are not there. I think at the moment he deserves us to take him for his word, face value.
Yeah.
And everything he says, I mean, until otherwise, because we have no reason to doubt him and then sort of, as I said, just take something that's not there. And I thought it was very positive. I think he is. I think, and like you said, with regards to quashing the Kwanzaa talk, he was very affirmative in terms of, and that will go down very well with Kwanzaa. He spoke about how he spoke to him very straight away and the following day as well. Again, it was refreshing also to hear Kwanzaa's response that I want to come training as a beloved rest day. And also, Dave, everything that we've heard from players has been so positive. Every video that we've seen has been, players seem rejuvenated almost. And that's not a sly on Klopp. It's just a positive on Slot. We don't always have to sort of look at the negatives out of a positive. Let's take the positives for what they are. And I think everything he's saying and everything the players are saying about him so far is very, very positive.
No doubts about it. Yeah, you have to, I think you're right, have to take him at face value. And he is giving us details in these press conferences as well, more than we maybe thought we'd get. There's honesty, some would see it as directness. But he talked about young players, Grizz, and because naturally people are asking him about, there's been quite a few departs. And we know, obviously, Bobby Clark's gone this week for about 10 million to Red Bull Salzburg. Young Harvey Blair's also departed for a deal that could go up to 600,000. That was confirmed late last night to Portsmouth. But focused on what Arne Slot said, he did talk about, we will work with young players, but we have to have honest conversations and we have to think about a safeguard for the club, but a safeguard to the player, because maybe 5 to 6 to 700 minutes, it was interesting he phrased it that way, might not be the right thing or what the player wants to hear. So then we have to make a decision for all. I mean, what did you take when you heard that, Chris? Because I know the context for that is a lot of fans have probably jumped on young players being sold. It's a hyper focus, I'd say, at the moment. But Arne Slot's being really honest there, isn't he, in terms of the conversations he's having, how he sees it, safeguarding the players and the club, and being specific that 500, 600, 700 minutes for a player. And you did wonder if he was talking about Bobby Clark in those types of conversations. Isn't always what they're wanting. What did you take away from the comments around the young players?
I found it refreshing. I honestly found it. It's look, he's come in and he's had to make some calls, and I think he's made some brave calls. I think that's the best way to describe it right now, because we don't know the repercussions of getting rid of either permanent or loan these youngsters squad players, right? We don't know, Dave. So it's brave, it's intriguing, it's fascinating. I'm with him in terms of he is the one who has been asked. And look, what did we hear? We heard from the horse's mouth, alongside when he was sat next to Richard Hughes, he said July will be used to assess the squad from A to Z. He's taken them to the preseason tour. He's assessed every single one. He's watched them day in, day out, double sessions, games galore, behind the scenes games. And he's had to make calls. I'd like to think they are his calls and not calls that he's been asked to make in terms of trimming the squad or saving or costs or whatever. I'd like to think that's not the case. And if that's not the case, and I'm sure it isn't, then he's been brave. He has a vision. We know, as we've just discussed, 3 or 4 youngsters have been brought in, couple maybe more coming in. And look, the academy has 2 purposes. Either you find a generational talent that enhances the first team, or you make money from it. And look, it's a success. It's a win-win scenario. It's a win-win situation. All of these youngsters that we've spoken about are making the club money, or we have generational talents. And potentially generational talents like the likes of Inyoni, the right back. My mind's gone blank. Bradley. And these guys, and I was very impressed with Nallo as well. You mentioned the centre back in pre-season tour. So he knows what he wants. He's kept what he thinks, what he needs. Let's give him a chance. Let's give him a break. Let's not have our own. We all have our perceived perceptions of youngsters. So many people believe in Clark. Oh my God, Bobby Clark. I love Tyler Morton, for example. But hey, what do I know about Tyler Morton more than Arne Slot? If Arne Slot thinks No, we monitor him. We send him away on loan, but we keep an eye on him, and he needs game time. Ben Doak, I'm a massive fan of Ben Doak. But if Arnie Slot believes X, Y, Z, then we go with Arnie Slot's opinion on him.
Yeah.
Obviously, the controversial one, maybe, I don't know, Dave, if you term it controversial, but was the Stefan Bajcetic. So many people believe, in him. I tweeted something about 5 to 6 weeks ago where I said, I think us Liverpool fans are doing too much for Stefan Bajcetic. I have my opinions, and it's a hot take. I haven't got the opinion of majority of Liverpool fans. I don't think he has a long-term career at Liverpool, but that's just my opinion. I'm absolutely open to eating humble pie. I'm not one to say no to pie, as you guys probably can tell.
Yeah.
But I'm not. I eat pie all day long if it means the betterment of Stefan Bajcetic in Liverpool. But obviously, Arnie Slot thinks either he needs more game time or either he doesn't fancy him, and only time will tell. So I think I'm Team Slot's decisions. Let him do what he wants. Let him have the squad, and obviously we're probably going to come on to it. Let him have the squad that he feels he needs, and then we'll judge it.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. He's worked with the players. He knows what he's after. He seems quite blunt and honest and direct in what he wants in the good sense from youth players. And if they're maybe not up to the level, be that there's a permanent or a temporary departure on the cards. And I agree with you largely. I look at it, and as much as, you've liked these players, maybe they dwell in Carabao, like Bobby Clark, when you actually look at who's departed so far, I think Joel Matip is the big one because he takes over just over 1,000 minutes. But if you actually look at the total minutes a lot of these lads played last season, it's not that many. Harvey Blair didn't see a single senior minute, did he, in all honesty, either? So that's got to be factored in. Ben Doak, very similar. He's one, as you mentioned. It'll be if Arnie Slot fancies him. Badge as well. I think the thing with Badge is the context for people around him is people are desperate for a 6. Okay, we're not buying one. Can it be Badge? I think that's part of the factor that goes in. But we also have to look at the reality is he's seen in pre-season. He came back early. So he's had extra time working with him. He will know if he fancies him longer term or has a thing. And it might be a loan. You need first team football, Stefan, for me to see your work, improve, do this, etc. But people, we have to think, Badge didn't play a single minute last season. I mean, his season, the one before, ended sort of early doors, didn't he, with a good few months. He needs football. So we either trust the manager, the coach on this, or we don't. It's as simple as that. But we will come on to transfers a little bit more, we promise. Grizz, Brentford, Anfield, Sunday, 4:30, the first home game. We're all hoping we naturally keep 100% record. A lot to like from Ipswich because it was a clean sheet, which is always helpful. But let's talk Brentford a bit more because on paper, people will be like, Brentford had a horrendous away record. Brentford have not won at Anfield since before World War II. However, we shouldn't just dismiss this. When you look at Brentford, who are you thinking? Because there's a few names probably. Who are you thinking the threats, the ones we need to keep an eye on?
Oh, wow. It's Brentford, if people are thinking, it's just going to be a routine win, Brentford always give us a run for our money. We have to work hard. That's going to be key. I know it's the most Sunday league thing to say, but you got to match the fight and passion. Yeah. Very similar to the opening 45 minutes against Ipswich. Of course, we're going to have the home advantage. And look, Thomas Frank's a very shrewd manager, a very clever manager. Of course, he won't have studied, or he won't have the data to sort of have studied how Slot will set up as opposed to how Klopp set up. So that may work in our favour. So let's see how it goes. Look, in terms of danger, we know their front three can cause a problem for anyone. And I'm talking about Wissa and Mbeumo. And probably Tony will come back into the fold tomorrow. I know he hasn't got his move away, but he's a handful and he has given us a problem every time he plays us. I remember him giving us a very, very good game a couple of seasons ago. I think he was Konate and Virgil, and I thought, this guy is giving us a hard game. And Mbeumo and Wissa are always a problem. We know they've caused us issues, especially at their ground in the past. Mbeumo linked with us very strongly. I personally believe he'd be an amazing addition to us in terms of eventually looking at a Mohamed Salah replacement. And if that's the caliber of player we're looking at, then he must be good, right?
Yeah.
So danger automatically. And we know Wissa sort of terrorized us a couple of seasons ago at Brentford, where they really done us over. So look, we have to be wary of them. We know they're going to put sort of workhorses in midfield, and their back four is huge. Well, if it's a back four, probably a back five. Plenty of height in their set pieces galore. So these are things that we're going to have to be wary of. And I'm sure Slot tomorrow will be another eye opener for him, Dave. And look, it's going to be, every team is going to give different dangers, have different dangers of it. And he's going to be learning as much as research he's going to have to do, because the point that we forget is not only is Slot new, but all his backroom staff. We haven't got anyone from last season to fill him in. Say, right, look, Arnie, these guys tend to blah, 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 or have this guy. Or it's a fresh, clean start in terms of backroom staff. And I'm sure they've done their homework. I'm sure they've done their due diligence. But it's going to still be an eye-opener in terms of how these teams set up against us, which is going to be intriguing, and how we deal with them as well as how they deal with us.
Yeah, it's his first experience of a team that's probably for large parts going to sit back at Anfield, isn't it? And we talk about how we like to play that system where it's very more patient, almost the press baiting, but he might not get that. His first check may be a challenge to almost break a side down. And at the same time, as you said, they'll have the threat going the other way. Now, Mbeumo, we know, will play with a lot of players like right winger with the left foot, and he scored a brilliant goal on the opening weekend, by the way, against Palace. A really good goal. So he looks hungry. Wissa, like you said, physical, likes the challenge as well. That will be difficult. And that's before you even mention Ivan Toney, if he comes into the fray as well. Plus, like you said, Grizz, they are going to put those balls in the box, looking for the likes of Pinnock, their giant centre-halves as well, to come in there. And also, I was thinking, if he gets minutes, Fabio Carvalho might have a point to prove at the same time as well, might he? So
I completely forgot the X factor that is Fabio Carvalho. No doubt he'd have a point to prove. Look, we wish him the absolute best, along with Sepp Vandenberg, except Sunday. I was going to say Saturday, except Sunday. And when we played at Brentford. Apart from that, guys, have a wonderful career. Be great. Be wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Can you imagine the headlines, Dave? Gosh, I let's not even go into the negative minds. There could be some headlines if Fabio turns it on against us. Yeah,
exactly. This is not, I know people are thinking we played a great second half against Ipswich. This is a completely different type of game for me. This is one where if you offer me a 2-0 with a clean sheet right now, snap your hands off for it. This will not be, I think, as easy as people think. And if you go back to the first game last season, Bournemouth, where again many thought this will be a walkover. Well, they were 1-0 up after 10 minutes. And then remember, we went down to, it was a ridiculous red card for Alexis McAllister. So anything can happen on the opening home game. And Grizz, lineup-wise, I know most people will be thinking largely the same. With Quansah not being in full training, it seems. He was in parts, but not full training. Arne Slot mentioned his injury as well. Are you expecting largely same team, but Konate for Quansah?
Yeah, it's interesting with the Quansah injury. I think it makes his mind up for him. I was intrigued to see otherwise if he was injured, because, as you say, Brentford will have a very, very low block, and we know how he really likes the way Quansah handles it, as opposed to Konate, which probably is not his strongest asset quality. But then again, we've just discussed the physical attributes of the Brentford forward line and the physical attributes of their centre-backs and midfielders as well. Konate will assist in that. So it's interesting how he would have gone, but absolutely Konate will slot in alongside Virgil van Dijk. And then I probably expect the same lineup. The only thing in my head is, again, looking at the height throughout the team. And if there's a Gakpo, or dare I say, maybe a Nunes in sort of a selection there in terms of just to help out on set pieces. We know Jurgen often pick the tallest team for these kind of games. He'd bring in Gakpo as an 8 a couple of times. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Just to sort of increase the height in the team. Because otherwise, we haven't got the biggest team. If we take Trent, Robertson, and then Salah, our front three are all under 6 foot.
Yeah.
Our midfield, Gravenberch, even though he's 6 foot, he's not the most physically demanding.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the only sort of thing in my head. If he brings in a Gakpo, but then Diaz done so wonderfully well.
Right.
I can't see him being dropped. And then Jota is Jota. I can't see him really being replaced for Nunes. I don't know if you can, but no, I don't expect many changes apart from the enforced one, or maybe it's not enforced.
True. Yes, snap. Exactly the same for me. The one thing I would think, and again, could be proved wrong on this, I would be surprised if the subs didn't get more minutes just to get them involved in the nature of the game. And we've talked about, the opening weekend's gone, but now we're moving into this period as internationals are coming up. Slot's big on load management, so it might be that some players are right, 65 you're off. But we will see it all tomorrow for this one, ladies and gents. And as normal, things like post-match Raw will be there for you after the game, hopefully talking about 3 points. Grizz, let's talk transfers because I get this. Everyone's fixated on this. There's 6 days of the window left. Liverpool have purchased 0 senior players. There's still 6 days left, and we always say we judge at the end of the window. But, I mean, to set the context, this is important. Jan Molby even talked about it on his pod the other night. Fans have got an understandable right to be a bit panicky, nervous, however you see it. Do you see it that way as well?
Yeah, absolutely, Dave. I'm normally known as very relaxed and always sort of to judge things on their merit, give context, base it on sort of the end of the window as opposed to believing every rumor left, right, and center and then getting disappointed if things doesn't come off. But I think this has been different, Dave. I genuinely believe this window has been, what's the word? Weird? Strange?
Yeah.
And I base it off sort of the scenario we find ourselves in. And that is a new coach has been brought in. A new director of football has been brought in. A new sporting director for FSG has been brought in. But at the moment, he hasn't got any other clubs to worry about. So we assume that Edwards is still concerned with Liverpool until further notice, right? So, and we've got a coach that is pretty openly, Dave, we've got a footballing director who's pretty openly sat next to each other in the press conference and said, well, they envisage the next couple of months. And they said, paraphrasing, but July will be quiet and we expect a crescendo building towards the end of August.
Yeah.
Like you say, Dave, we are 6 days. How much end of August are we looking towards? And does it mean that we were unable to prize away our first choice target in Zubimendi, which is, look, understandable, and we know these things happen. You know, we know the kind of character and personality he is. He said no to Arsenal very much in a similar way. They thought they had their man and he changed his mind. And if Arteta, Spanish-speaking, knows him, wasn't able to prize him away, then, you know. But then it begs the question, Dave, how many times in the past have we gone on to second or third choices and made a success of it?
Yeah.
Why aren't we doing that now? We know the amount of players that we've let go in terms of youngsters and squad. Are we really going to potentially weaken our squad from last season for a new incoming manager? That doesn't make any logical, rational sense, Dave. And I'd like to think me and you are logical, rational Reds. We're not steaming hot lunatics asking for transfers and new toys. We're asking for a bit of help because the manager has made it very clear, Dave, as clear as manager will say, that Wataru Endo is not my ideal midfielder. Then give him his ideal midfielder or something along those lines of an ideal midfielder. We know Sepp Vandenberg has been sold. We know Joe Gomez is speaking to other clubs. I tweeted he's been given permission to speak to Fulham and Villa. Obviously, Fulham went on to sign Anderson from Palace,
Yeah.
it still indicates that once we've given permission to a centre back, a senior centre back who's been there for the best part of a decade, then it suggests we need to fill that void. At the moment, 6 days to go. 6 days, anything can happen. We are known to suddenly go and make one or two signings just like that. I think we desperately, as a fan base, and I'm going to use that word, Dave. I don't often, because it sets off panic. It sets off tones of being underprepared. And I'd like to think we're not. I'd like to think the reason we brought back this team of data analytics people and sort of the people behind the scenes will know what they're doing. I hope to God they do, and I hope to God we bring in one or two in the last week, because otherwise I think it will give a negative outlook on the remainder of the season.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think if everyone had their wish list in the summer, there's probably 6 big things on it. And maybe in ranking order, everyone wanted a DM. They wanted a left-sided defender. Now, people would have accepted is a centre-back on the left side, a hybrid, whatever you want. I think people wanted that left-sided defender. Then people probably thought, okay, and obviously Anthony Gordon talking attacker, but that was down the list. It was still there. And naturally, there's 3 superstars now inside 12 months. So you think at the moment, Richard Hughes, whoever, FSG, however you want to see it, are batting 0 for 6 in context. 6 days left, but they're batting 0 for 6 as you currently see it. Like you said, there seems to be a lot of potential exits. I mean, if Joe Gomez does go, and if he's getting his permission, Grizz, he's talking to other clubs, your remaining centre-backs, just to be clear, people, are Virgil, Quansah, Ibu, and Nat Phillips probably jumps to number 4 all of a sudden. So you have to believe, I think we all want to believe, there is something there. We will have to see on that. One player I did want to ask you about, because we always, as it is Daily Red, topical things, Grizz, it is trending a lot. There seems to be a lot of, as you look at a quick swipe of social media, seems Kelleher's name trending quite a bit. Have you heard anything on him at all? Or because it seems to be they set a price really early, didn't they? It was going to be around the 25 million mark, which kind of seemed reasonable with the context of the market, but almost nothing since. Name trending again. Heard anything or any other potential exits at all?
So this is intriguing again. This is so intriguing. We know James Pearce done an interview with him very early on in the window where Kelleher indicated that he wants to play. But I was told a lot of these players don't want to leave, Dave. I mean, I don't know if it's the effect of Slot and how he sort of had made an impression of him. Again, we know we've signed or on the verge of signing Mamardashvili from Valencia, but we also know that he's going to stay on loan for a season. Does that mean that Alisson is probably given a sign or indication that, eventually he will move on, because we've paid a hefty fee for him, hefty fee for the Georgian keeper. The Kelleher one is intriguing. I wouldn't put it past last week exit for Kelleher. I genuinely wouldn't, Dave, because I think we believe in Jaros a lot. I think we've been very impressed with Jaros as well. But I don't expect both of them to stay at the club by the end of Friday. There will definitely be one of them moving on. Jaros won't be third choice keeper for the season, because he's what's the word? Tasted regular, and won the league in Austria. Is it with Sturm Graz, I believe? So he won't want to be third choice. Kelleher, we know, is a very clear second choice. So I still wouldn't be surprised if, but then you're thinking of his options, and a lot of teams have started making moves for keepers. I think Bournemouth made a move for Ramsdale, I believe. I may be wrong on that, but some teams made a move for Ramsdale, and so then you start to think, well, who's going to make a move for Kelleher? Unlike you, I think a very reasonable price has been set for him. We know the qualities of Kelleher, and as I said, I expect one of Kelleher or Jaros to be moved on. Probably not sort of, when I say moved on, by choice of player, as opposed to the club forcing them out, because certainly we won't want to force Kelleher out. But I think if we get an offer in the region of that 20 million. I believe he will be moved on. But again, it's a lot of money coming in. We need to see some of it being spent, Dave. And as I said, 6 days to go. I do expect a bit of activity, but fingers crossed.
Yeah, it will be interesting. Like you said, almost Yaros and Kelleher, too good to be the number 3 and number 2. One of them will want to move. I don't think anyone doubts that at all. So we'll expect some activity. Final question then for transfer talk and sort of wrap up Daily Red, Grizz. I know you kind of share that hope that was coming through. What's your gut telling you, or from what you're hearing, what do you think? And I'm saying could be done, because I'm not going to put you on the line, because I know people will jump on this, just to be clear.
Oh, they can jump what they want. We know how these things work. It's Hogan and the boys that signed the checks, not me. But look, I know we've made inquiries for X amount of players, which indicates if we're making inquiries, even to last week, agents have been spoken to. It indicates that we're working hard behind the scenes to get something done. If there was no speaking to agents and clubs, then you think, oh my God, we've closed up shop and we go with what we are. But we're not. Everything that I've been hearing indicates that we are speaking to clubs. We are in full engagement with agents, and we are anticipating trying to get some things over the line. I fully expect us to bring in a defender. I don't know if that's going to be a centre-back or, like you said, a left-back stroke hybrid, someone mold of an Inacio. I've heard the name Inacio mentioned. I know we've spoken to South American agents in terms of Leverkusen, in terms, and I assume some people were thinking it's the Palacios, the midfielder, but I believe it's Hincapié, the left back stroke centre back.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have a few irons, so to speak, and let's hope they pull out something out the bag. At the start of the window, I wasn't anticipating many incomings. So many people were suggesting, oh, we're going to have an influx. We've got a new sporting director. They're going to want to make an impact. No. Our squad is healthy. But we do need a sprinkling of 2 or 3. I don't envisage 3. I'm praying for 2. I fully expect 1. That's the best way of putting it. I fully expect 1, and I think that will be a defender, stroke left back, stroke hybrid of the 2. And if a midfielder comes in, then I think that will be a bonus at this stage. But we keep hope alive. As I tweeted the other day, we keep hope alive because there's 6 days to go and anything can happen.
Yeah, a lot can happen in 6 days in terms of both ways, people. And you probably expect maybe more business out than players coming in, but we will see what happens. Ladies and gents, there we are at the top of the hour for you. That is the Daily Red on Saturday, the 24th of August for you. All it needs me to say is, Grizz, for the time, the thoughts, and the insight, much appreciated, sir.
I've really enjoyed it. It's been a fascinating chat. And we thought we might struggle for topics because nothing happening. Blah, blah, blah. Hey, I hope the viewers and listeners have enjoyed that. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Good stuff. Yeah. Fingers crossed as well. Next time we're talking, we'll be talking about Liverpool with a 100% record, having demolished Brentford, but we will take any sort of result. So, Saturday, the 24th of August, ladies and gents, enjoy your weekend, enjoy family time, and enjoy the Reds when it comes tomorrow.